And I believe we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Please tell us if we're live. We've never done this before. Can you tell?
Yes, if there's no sound or anything like that, do let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And we'll have a fiddle and see if we can fix
Hello,
it.
Kerry. Hello, Tiff.
Hello, Selena.
Oh, this is very exciting.
It is.
It's like having an actual kind of Halloween party, which I haven't done in many a year, I have to say.
So, for those of you that aren't aware, the plan this evening was to follow along with National Seance Live, which basically means we're going to be watching the BBC 1992 special Ghost Watch. At the time it was originally broadcast, which was 9:25 on Halloween night in 1992, it caused rather a bit of controversy when it aired originally.
You could say that.
Yes.
But we didn't know anything about that because we were 11?
I was 12.
12. Oh, I must have been 11 then.
Yeah.
I forget how old I am. It happens a lot. So as far as we were concerned, it was just something really, really fascinating. We didn't know, well, I wasn't aware of any of the kind of controversy that happened afterwards, were you?
No.
But it's because of that, it's become pretty notorious.
It's been quite interesting, actually. We've been researching this, and it's been funny watching like points of view and all the sort of complaint programs. Yeah, well, where people have complained about it, and they're getting so het up about things that we probably consider quite tame now.
Oh yeah,
possibly because this has already been and done it. And by the way, if you see us looking over there, that's where our television is. Yeah. So if we're looking over there, we'll be looking at Ghost Watch. If you'll be looking down here,
we're looking at your comments.
This is where you all are.
Yeah.
And
hi Tracy. Hello. Falling.
I can play with this and I can put your comments up on the screen. There is a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
So don't worry if we miss something straight away.
Yeah, we're going to try and answer any questions you have or read out comments. If you've got memories of Ghost Watch to share, if you have something to share about the first time you watched Ghost Watch and, you know, were you frightened or did you hate it or did you just think the shoulder pads were hilarious? And we'll try and catch them and read them out. But just be a little bit patient with us because, like I said, this is our first live stream.
Yeah, we had a major panic earlier because we've been sort of getting our setup ready. And we did our final test this afternoon and it all went wrong. Yeah,
we tried to sort of Heath Robinson something together so that you'd have better audio and visuals, and it just completely failed. It went horribly wrong. So apologies that it's not very good quality. We just had to revert to somebody's phone camera, I'm afraid. And then we started having fireworks.
Yes.
So if you're not in the UK, we have Bonfire Night, Guy Fawkes Night on the 5th of November, which obviously is not today,
no.
But somebody local has decided very, cleverly to have their fireworks night tonight. So if you hear any massive bangs, it's not Pipes, the ghost. It is our neighbours having a fireworks display. Yes. So we were a little bit afraid that was going to continue all through the live stream, but fingers crossed, touch wood, it stopped. Shh, don't say it too loud. But we hope all the amazing. Oh,
we may have a kitty as well.
We have a kitty in the shot. But also what we've had going on this evening, which has been a bit of a flap, has been an announcement from the Prime Minister telling us that we're all going back into lockdown. So, of course, we were running around like headless chickens trying to set up the live stream with the setup we had failing, going, what's going on? What has the government done? Yeah. What's happening?
2020 has struck once more.
Yeah, so that was a thing.
Yeah, and on top of that, Sean Connery.
Oh, I know. I'm gutted.
It's terrible. Somebody really wants to be on the live stream. She wouldn't let Lil sit down just as we were getting set up. We're like 30 seconds to go.
I couldn't get in my chair.
She's like, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be on the live stream. So we've got
what we got? Some comments.
Some love from Texas.
Oh,
hello. Okay, Green.
Loving your backdrop. I know. We were so excited. We were like kids at Christmas when we got this figured out. We got the wall hanging from Amazon, and I made a little curtain out of it. And we just came downstairs for the next 5 days, going, the moon, the moon.
Yeah, because you might have seen. Sorry, it's a bit of a faff to turn the camera around, but we did post a picture on Instagram, and I think we did on Facebook as well, of our doorway to Narnia, which is over there. And once we'd done that, we're like, we need to do something for this window.
Yeah, we're going to prettify Coffee HQ.
We definitely.
And then we got that up, and then we were like, you know what would be better? Fairy lights would be better.
Yeah.
So we then got a curtain of like Christmas fairy lights to hang behind it, and we were just, we were so excited. It was ridiculous.
It looks amazing. I don't know if it comes out so well on the video, but they come in sort of coils, so it's got this sort of 3D depth effect when you look at it.
You can't
it's
really
amazing.
see it so much on there, unfortunately, but it is pretty cool. Are you going to sit there all
So
right?
yeah, like we said, this is our first live stream, so do forgive us if we make any mistakes. If
but,
you know,
give us advice. If you can't hear anything like we say, or something's going awry, do tell us. We'll try and fix it.
Yeah, if there's anything you don't like, let us know. If there's anything you do like, let us know. If you want us to do more of these, then we'll certainly consider doing it.
Temper says AV is good quality, no worries. Thank you. Cool.
Excellent.
Kerry says Kitty is always welcome. Yes, always welcome. So we asked you lot to send in any memories you had of Ghostwatch and when it first aired. So some of you got in touch, and our friend and author Alan Tigro, who is I just grabbed the books. Author of Ghosts in the Garden of England and Collecting Ouija boards in the UK, which I just happen to have here. He sent us in his memories of watching Ghostwatch when it first aired in 1992, which is awesome. And I'm going to read them to you now. So, Ghostwatch. Billed as a serious live paranormal investigation into a haunting within an average house in an average street in the suburbs of England. What put additional credence into it being something more sensible and more serious than other Halloween shows were the presenters. They were the A-listers of British TV back in the 80s and 90s, being at a time before the internet and mobile phones, and more importantly at a time before Most Haunted and the other plethora of ghost hunting shows. People were more innocent when it came to the paranormal. The more you watch ghost hunting shows or horror movies, the more desensitized to things of that nature you become. Ghostwatch was the first of its kind, so it was more of a baptism of fire for most viewers. So this is the situation I found myself in back in 1992 when I was 18 years old. I was watching the show up in my bedroom alone, and my parents were watching it downstairs. I still remember hearing my mum scream when she spotted something in the background of one of the scenes. You'll probably hear us do that later as well. I remember being riveted to the screen, trying to spot the ghost from that point on, thinking it was all true. Although I was hooked, I also had goosebumps and was very shocked by what I was seeing. It wasn't until the final scene that it dawned on me what was really going on. To me, the ending was just that little bit too outrageous. Pretty much agree. By all accounts, many people had switched the TV off by that point, having been terrified by some of the earlier scenes. However, by doing that, they were left believing it was all real. It's no wonder so many complaints were made. In terms of the reaction by the general public, you could liken Ghostwatch to the original radio presentation of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Having already been a fan of the paranormal, I would say this helped to fuel the fire of my interest in paranormal investigation. And yeah, I mean, it was such a perfect intro. Thank you, Alan. I mean, you did the job for us there. It was fantastic. That's pretty much, our thoughts are very similar.
I remember, and like I said, I was 12 when it came out, and I don't remember looking for it. I'm pretty sure I stumbled across it. From what I remember, we were at my parents' friend's house, and they were having a dinner party, and I was sort of bundled off into the living room to watch TV and pass the time and not annoy my elders. And I stumbled across this program, and I'd missed the start, which is kind of vitally important.
It is, and I'll tell you why in a bit.
And I came in, and they were doing this, you know, there was this ghost at this house, and there were the family, and they were being terrorized, and it was all very familiar to sort of paranormal films nowadays. If you look at things like Paranormal Activity and things like that,
yeah, but we'd never seen anything like it before.
It was like the first. It may not have been the first of its kind. It was definitely the first that I saw. And we had, was it the original? We had our own British Ghost Hunters program.
We did, and it was called Ghost Hunters?
I think
rather than
Ghost
just
Hunters, wasn't it?
I think the modern one's called Ghost Hunters. The one we know from America is called Ghost Hunters, and the British one was called The Ghost Hunters, which isn't much of a differentiation. But...
there's a fairly high belief in the paranormal in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's always sort of been around, but this was groundbreaking in its execution. And I remember sitting down watching this programme, and I'd missed the start, so I didn't have any hint that it might not be real.
I'm beginning to wonder if anybody saw the start. I didn't see the start. I've never...
Well, it was very subtle.
Yeah.
To basically to lay it out for you, they had a little bit at the start that said written by, and it was by a production company. It was called
Screen One.
It was a Screen One production,
which was the BBC's drama department.
But if you're not in the know, like even if at 12, even if I'd have seen that, I think I wouldn't have even noticed.
Well, I've got the what they call the continuity, the bit that basically they introduced the show with. So they read out, now on BBC One, Screen One presents an unusual and sometimes disturbing film marking Halloween. Over the centuries, there have been countless reports of ghosts and ghouls. The line between fact and fiction has always been unclear. There's a bit of a clue there, right there. Using the modern idiom of the outside broadcast, Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, Mike Smith and Craig Charles star in Ghostwatch. So that was your clue.
Yeah, but it was broadcast as live.
Yeah.
So they had like people, they had the trucks with the cameramen, and they introduced all the crew, and it was well-known people. It wasn't sort of nobody actors or people that you might have gone, oh, I've seen him in that, unless it was a case of like Craig Charles, you've seen him in Red Dwarf or something like that. But they were all known as sort of TV presenters, and they weren't billed as anything else.
No, but there had been a lot in the press. Well, not a lot, but there was an article in Radio Times the week before that billed the programme as a drama, and they actually explained that it was a drama and a story. But of course, not everybody gets the Radio Times. It's not like an internet article where you'll see it on Facebook, and most people will have seen it. You have to go out and actually buy it deliberately. I mean, we never got the Radio Times.
Well, this was the big thing. It was 1992. There was an internet, but almost nobody had it. You didn't really have mobile phones. They were the big brick things with
do we even have them?
I did check because I wanted to see. I was going to say there was no internet in 1992, so I checked, and there was. The internet is you get confused into the internet and something else.
Lister Craig Charles. Yes, Lister Craig Charles.
Yes, Lister Craig Charles.
Yeah. Which is weird now because, sorry to digress a minute, but just to answer one of the comments there. Yeah, I didn't know who Craig Charles was when I watched Ghostwatch. So when I finally got it on DVD years later, I was like, Lister?
Yeah. Oh, I did. I knew Craig Charles.
Sorry, we completely digressed. But yeah, I've actually got the TV listings from Saturday, October 31st, 1992. And what we were saying about nobody seemed to see the start. And I think a lot of the explanation from that is, back then we only had 4 TV channels. We literally had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV and Channel 4, and that was it. So if you were settling in for the evening to watch TV, you would just channel hop to what was the best thing on. And there wasn't a lot on, is my point. So,
well, I'm bearing in mind, this is the UK in the 90s. There was only 4 channels anyway.
Yeah, so we've got, if you weren't going to watch Ghostwatch, there was Hale and Pace. Oh, no, that was on later. The News and Weather on ITV. They had a film on later. They had Wall Street on. If you were watching Channel 4, you had Court TV, followed by Racing International. Nothing very Halloweeny going on there.
No.
And then on BBC Two, you had Testament of Youth. I don't know what that is, followed by Inside Story. So really,
there was nothing comparable on.
No, there was nothing else on to watch. And I think that's part of the reason why the viewing figures were just so high. So many people tuned in to watch this, and so many children tuned in to watch this.
Yeah, it was
with their parents.
Yeah, again, for those of you not in the UK, at 9 o'clock we have what's called the watershed. So anything that's risque, so nudity, swearing,
adult,
anything adult is sort of put after 9 o'clock, and that's well known.
It's
and that's
published.
Something that came up.
It was actually published in the Radio Times.
Yeah.
It's I don't know whether it's just a BBC thing, but it is. Everybody knows
that.
I knew it growing up. it's a household thing. If it's after 9 o'clock, it's deemed inappropriate for children, which is why it was so surprising, because we were watching a YouTube version of Bite Back. So Bite Back was a program that was basically gave viewers the opportunity to have a go at the TV writers and producers and just say what, you know, say their mind, basically, give them a piece of their mind. And of course, the Bite Back for Ghostwatch, people were absolutely furious. And there was one woman on there that was saying, you know, I knew that it was a spoof. I vetted it before. I bought the Radio Times. I knew what it was going to be, and I planned to watch it with my children.
Yeah.
And understandably, the writers who were defending themselves were like, "But why were you planning to watch it with your children when you had checked what it was about and you knew it wasn't suitable?"
But it gets better than that, because in the programme itself, the host, Michael Parkinson, who's a famous presenter in the UK, he says several times, it's after the watershed, you know, because they've obviously, it's not real, so they faked call-ins, and they had somebody say, oh, you know, my children are getting scared, and he says on the television, it's after the watershed, your children shouldn't be watching, put them to bed.
Turn it
and
off,
they do that
a
few times throughout the programme. They say, you know, it's after the watershed, you know, children shouldn't be watching. But, you know, obviously a lot of them do, and that's where quite a few of the complaints came from.
Yeah, and it's a tricky one, really, because on the one hand, you can kind of understand. They had one of the biggest problems was that one of the real life TV presenters they had on was a children's TV presenter, and they deliberately wanted to have real life TV presenters on because that's the feel they were going for. They were going for like a War of the Worlds type feel,
and they nailed it.
And they nailed it.
They nailed it.
They really did. Or somebody I've heard on a couple of podcasts now even liken it to Dracula as like an even older sort of way of doing it, because Dracula was a completely made up story, but the way it was presented in letters and diary entries was as if it had happened for real, and that's the feel they were going for. And they did exactly the right thing in that sense by getting these well-known figures. Like Michael Parkinson was a household name, everybody knew who he was. What he said was like law, and to a certain extent what the BBC said was law. You know, people trusted what the BBC said. I think somebody had that famous quote, if I won't believe it's real until I see it on TV. I can't remember who it was, but, and that's how we kind of felt about TV then. But I think from the writer's point of view, they wanted to push those boundaries and go and say to people, well, should you just believe everything you see on TV? Maybe you should question that.
Maybe you should be a little skeptical.
And
they did, again, that was one of the things that came up in these sort of review programs. It was like people were just accepting it without even questioning it because it was on the BBC.
Yeah.
Which was amusing. Once, like, going back to my impressions of it, almost 2/3 of the way through, you're thinking, is this real? This is really good if it's real. And then it does the usual thing, like most paranormal films, like Paranormal Activity. It goes over the top. And I think... But
I didn't see that.
I saw...
At the time.
Where it started going over the top. I didn't see the very last scene, which was just so over the top.
Terrible.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, I saw enough to know that it was fake. And interestingly, the woman whose house we were at came in while I was watching and had a fit that I was watching it. And she phoned up the phone line. And the phone line, they did have a phone line for people to call in.
This was the thing. It was all done as a style of a telephone kind of thing. Yeah. So they had the same. I think it was the same.
Sorry, ignore the sound. The cat.
That's the cat going to the toilet. She's digging to Australia currently. She's really helpful.
But yeah, they had a sort of call-in centre, and obviously because it was pre-filmed, it wasn't live. And if you actually called in, you got an answering machine message that said, this isn't real, it's just a TV show, please don't be upset, basically.
Well, some of the calls went through to a switchboard. I think the problem was they only had a certain number of people.
Just to interrupt very quickly, if you're planning on watching along, you've got 5 minutes to get your DVD prepped.
Yeah, and probably less than that because there's a little bit of a delay from
us. Yeah.
So yeah, get those DVDs at the ready. Ours is ready to go. So yeah,
there were so many calls that the phone lines are overwhelmed, so they just got busy signals. And there was a guy on the Bite Back program that got really upset because he says he'd got through, but he basically got
engaged.
He got something from the phone company that said, there are too many people calling this line effectively, and you can't get through. And he was really upset.
Steaming,
he was
steaming.
He was like, I did get through. I did get through. Oh,
he would not let that one go.
No, he wasn't going to let that one go.
It was a bit.
So we're going to have to sort of skim up quickly before we start.
Well,
just to give you a heads up.
we're gonna be talking all the way through, really, aren't we? So if you are watching this for the first time, if you've got your DVD ready and you're going to press play and you're excited to watch it for the first time, you might want to just mute us because we're probably just going to, obviously some of you watching haven't got a DVD. We unfortunately can't play it for you because that would be contravening all sorts of copyright things. So we're just going to talk you through it. And last time we watched this between the two of us, we managed to yak our way all the way through it anyway, didn't we? Successfully. So
main character in this, the ghost, is called Pipes.
Yes, very important, because we'll be sitting here yelling "Pipes, Pipes" every time we see him, probably. Now, there are supposedly like 8 sightings, I want to say.
I think they tried to get 13 in, but I don't know whether they did actually get 13.
I think some of them got cut. So I think there's 8 sightings of the ghost we know about. So we're going to yell when we see them, because we've been through this with a fine-tooth comb now, and I think we've seen them all. If you spot Pipes, let us know in the comments.
We will expect multiple comments going,
Pipes! If you're drinking, turn it into a drinking game. I may look like I am, but this is non-alcoholic, sadly.
I can't drink either. So just in case anybody's having any problems, our sort of little viewing screen here has gone a bit choppy. So do let us know if you're having any problems. And before we get too far,
we've got some comments.
Yeah, we've got some comments. Selena says, I only saw it for the first time a few years ago too. Does anyone know when it became a cult classic? Did that happen more recently?
Basically, when the internet forums came about, that's when it became classic, because it was the BBC were kind of, a bit ashamed. They tried to bury it because of the uproar. And so nobody they couldn't replay it. It was banned from TV. It's still never been replayed on UK TV. So it was only when people started talking about it on internet forums and going, do you remember that thing in 1992 on Halloween? That people started to realise that actually there was a fan base out there. It was a cult classic. There were apparently tapes, like VHS tapes, being sold on the black market for like 50 quid a pop. But nobody knew that it was this big phenomenon until the internet came about and everybody could start talking about it. And like they had little fan clubs going. And then 10 years after its original release, they actually put it on DVD. So then you could buy it again. And then people like us that had never seen the beginning and the end, or I'd never seen the end anyway, could actually watch it all the way through and go, oh yeah. And that kind of brought it all back up.
So I'm saying that off. So we've got like 2 minutes to go. We've got a quick comment from Kerry Gleason. We'll hit that before we start our DVD. I only saw it once since quarantine. I thought it was very well done and can understand the reaction. In the USA, more risque things were after 9 PM as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So worldwide.
Same thing here, and it was really well done for the time. They all played it straight.
And then we've got a quick comment from Tiff before we start.
I think I'd already put that one up before.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. My bad.
It was very much like the original War of the Worlds.
Yeah. We wouldn't have slept with the light on.
I was alright actually.
Yeah, I was surprisingly. Do you know what? I was a bit of a wuss when I was a kid, and I was, as much as I loved ghost stories, they did, stop me sleeping in the dark. But I was just more fascinated by this than anything. What's the time?
It is 9:24.
Oh, 1 minute to go. I'm actually quite excited. I don't know why I'm excited. We've watched this about 18 times.
We have. We've got the volume on really, really quiet. So you may hear the occasional snippet.
Yeah, if it's bothering you, let us know. We'll turn it down a bit more. We thought we were going to get away with just having subtitles on. That was the plan. We were just going to have it subtitled. We didn't check whether the DVD had subtitles, and it does not. No. Which is a bit of a fail on our part. So we've just got it down as low as we can. We do nearly know it off by heart now anyway. Yes. So we can turn it down more.
And it's 9:25. It's time.
Press play!
Press play.
Screen One presents. Here we go.
Yep.
Not much is going to happen for a minute.
Yeah. So it's got this little title sequence that now that you know, you can go, okay, yeah, it's not
Screen
it's
one.
not usual
it's drama.
for a sort of straight news or reporting
And it says
program.
Michael Parkinson
Yeah.
in. I suppose that's not the same as saying starring. With, and it's got the credits up. But you see, yeah, if you just saw that opening sequence, it doesn't really give you much of a clue. You would have needed to have got the radio times beforehand and all that side of it, I think, to know. Because looking at it now, it's not really giving you much of a clue, has it?
And he's very much a sort of factual program presenter. You don't expect him to be in fiction.
No, well, he doesn't. Has he ever been in anything that's actually a drama before?
I don't know. He may have done possibly before my time.
Not that I'm aware of. He hasn't. And Sarah Green, again, she was, like I say, a BBC children's TV presenter. Yeah. So she was on things like Going Live, and was she in the Broom Cupboard? Remember the Broom Cupboard? Those of you who are old enough. But I don't remember. She didn't play parts. She wasn't in dramas, and that's where the BBC kind of came unravelled with all of this. However, there were characters in it that were actors, and this is something that they pointed out, that the producers pointed out on Bite Back when they were sort of defending themselves, was that some of the actors in this, people playing like members of the public and people that they interviewed and people that called in, they'd been like in Casualty and what was the police TV show?
Oh, The Bill.
The Bill, that was it.
The Bill.
And things like that, like the week before. So they thought people would just twig that it was actors.
They do. But I'm watching it again now. They start off with what they claim is university footage, university research footage of the family. And there's a light exploding and various banging and knocking going on. And it's played so straight. And
it looks so much like the Enfield haunting. I mean, I've actually heard Stephen Volk, the writer of Ghostwatch, claim that he didn't base it on the Enfield haunting, and he was sort of trying to say that he just took into account lots of different, hauntings. And I get that, but I mean, it's so obviously, it's very Enfield.
Yeah, it's a family, 2 young girls
in London.
Yeah.
And that first scene that we just watched is literally the girls in their bedroom. It's a shared bedroom. There's 2 beds, and it's just like all those photos you see from the Enfield haunting. Yeah. And of course, the BBC. I think the BBC did do a documentary of the Enfield haunting at the time as well, didn't they?
I don't know if it was the same time again, because this is.
No, I mean like when the Enfield haunting was happening.
Oh yeah.
They covered it. So I think that the writers assumed a lot more people would know about the Enfield haunting and would see the parallels, because again, on that Bite Back thing we watched today, one of the women on there asked, why did you have to involve children? It was like a sick joke because you involved children. And they obviously weren't getting the parallel that that's what happens in poltergeist cases famously. The most famous poltergeist case ever in Britain, it was the Enfield haunting when this came out. Obviously there's more poltergeist cases we know about now, but at the time that was the most famous one. And it was prepubescent girls or girls on the edge of puberty. It was a single mother in London, and it's so close. And some of the scenes are almost recreated from those photographs of the Enfield haunting.
And this is where Craig Charles comes in. And Craig Charles, I bless him, he was great in Red Dwarf, but
he's not good in this.
No, I think he's playing the part he was meant to play, which is the sort of irritating, bouncy fella. It's scripted, so he's obviously doing what they wanted him to do. But when you're watching it, you're kind of like,
stop being so annoying, Craig.
Stop being so annoying. And they've obviously designed it like that, and I think it's things like that that distract you from the fact that they're trying to put you into this frame of mind. And when you're busy going, "Oh, Craig, don't be silly," you're not thinking, "This ghost business is a bit weird."
Yeah, it's difficult. It kind of it toys with you a little bit in the first sequence. So to start with, the bit that we've just watched, you've got almost like this 80s montage going on, where the what they call the vans, the TV vans with the aerial, the satellites and that on, they screech up outside the studio. Somebody flicks the floodlights on, and there's this montage sequence with drums like dum, 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 going on, and it's all a bit filmy. At that point, you know, at that point you're not sold on it being real at all. And then we start to meet the girls and the mother and the family, and their acting in the beginning of the show I don't think is that great.
No.
I don't think they really pull it off, and I wasn't sold at this point at all when I rewatched it. No, because the acting just doesn't draw you in. But then you keep cutting back to the studio, and they've set the studio up with Michael Parkinson being Michael Parkinson, and Sarah Green's husband, who was her real life husband at the time, in the call centre. And you've got all these like telephone operators behind the glass with the number, the real number that you could actually ring on the screen. And I think I read somewhere that it was the same number they used on like Going Live
and Crime Watch. It was like sort of the BBC anyway. Call-in number. Yeah.
So people knew it was a real operation number. And it just it suddenly turns into this really familiar thing. So you've got a bit of dodgy acting and a bit of like 80s montage with drums, and you're like, yeah, whatever. But then it cuts back to this telethon type setup that it's just so familiar and comfortable and just exactly what you'd expect. And you get lulled into this false sense of, oh no, this is actually this is what's happening.
They've done the sort of traditional BBC thing as well. And they've given it the sort of balance. They've got this expert in to talk about the sort of paranormal side. She's supposed to be one of the researchers from the university that did the sort of original filming. And Parky's very much this, oh, I know, you think it's a bit silly, don't you, really? And she's like, well, you know, and she starts off quite reasonable, and it's just, you know, well, you know, we thought that at first, and we started doing this research, and we started to see things that are a little bit unusual. And sort of, she doesn't sort of slam in and go, you know, you're silly for not believing in ghosts. She's just kind of, you know, there might be something to this, you know.
It's very much like a real BBC panel, isn't it? Because then they get the skeptic in later, and that's what the BBC always do. They have believer and skeptic. They've got to show both sides, and this skeptic is so irritating. He's just well, you would in real life.
Yeah,
he'd be that irritating and smug, which again just draws you in.
Oh well, he's just specially designed to be annoying.
Yeah.
Like I think what they've done is they've made you want to dislike him, so that you side with her and her.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you are listening, I would be amused to see if anybody can guess who I think he sounds like.
Who do you think? I know you told me last time we watched it, and now I've forgotten.
Do you not remember?
No, I can't remember. I've slept since then. I can't remember.
Oh.
I'll find out when we get there.
I'll give you a hint. He's recently recreated a famous pose that he made in Jurassic Park.
Oh God, yeah! Cool. I'll see if anybody gets it. For those of you who are watching,
we won't give it away. But, no, not yet. I'm hoping that we're actually still live because it's got a bit choppy here.
Oh dear. Can everybody still see us, hear us? Is it all still going ahead?
Yeah. Do give us a thumbs up or a quick comment if you're still
we are a bit choppy, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is there, but we had Tiff's comment come through, so I'm presuming we're still going. And we haven't been flooded with comments going, it's all gone wrong.
Oh no.
So hopefully that's okay.
We'll see. Right, where have we got to now? Sorry, I've been looking at the comments and not what's going on the screen. So the premise behind, if you don't know anything about Ghostwatch, it was originally written to be a 6-part drama series, and Stephen Volk his original idea was that he would follow lots of different cases around the UK. So this drama series would be about paranormal investigators investigating lots of different cases, and then through the course of that series they'd kind of whittle it down to what they thought of as the most haunted house, and the final episode, the 6th episode, would be a live investigation of that house. So obviously that would have cut out a lot of the problems that they had later, because it would have been set up a lot more as a drama series. Still working fine. Cool. Excellent.
Still hear not as clear as earlier. But...
Okay, hopefully it will clear up.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Yeah.
But, well, at least Kerry can still see and hear us fine.
Yeah.
So,
If it gets worse, let us know.
yeah, I think if they'd have gone with that 6-part series, it would have lost all of its potency.
It would have lost its power.
Yeah.
It would have done, but then people wouldn't have got so angry.
It would either have been so slow for the first 5 episodes that nothing really happened, people wouldn't bother tuning in, or you'd have already, the horse would have bolted before you got to your live investigation.
So at the moment, they've got some of the
this was one of the first times we saw thermal cameras on TV.
They're using a thermal camera. And I think the only time using a thermal camera would have happened on TV before would be in some sort of war, military kind of film, something like that. But never on a paranormal show.
No.
I mean, we didn't really have. I mean, there was no ghost hunting shows.
No, most of the paranormal stuff in the UK was very much a bearded chap in front of the fire saying, "No, let me tell you a story," and a pipe. Yes, it's like we went to the chapel at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that was very much how it was done. I don't know whether they did that just because it was like, I trust the old man with the beard and the pipe.
Yeah.
But that they were quite.
There were a lot of the people that spoke about the paranormal at the time were university professors. They were studying parapsychology, and that's what it was. It wasn't, you weren't paranormal investigators, you were a parapsychologist.
Yeah.
And it was only members of the ghost club and people like that really kind of got into it, and it very much was the university professor with the pipe and the patches on the cord.
Oh yeah, the leather patches.
The leather patches.
You know what, I'm just going to turn this on because we're going to be using.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to try and make it a little bit clearer for you guys. Oh, Sarah Green, look at those shoulder pads. That was one of the things that really, really surprised me and made me laugh. When I watched this again, when I first got the DVD a few years ago, and obviously having watched it when I was first 11, there was a lot of stuff I didn't notice, and one of them was the fact that Sarah Green, bless her heart, is wearing shoulder pads underneath her t-shirt, because of course, I mean, it was the 90s, but it was the early 90s, so it was practically still the 80s, and of course anything like this, you had a t-shirt, whatever, if it was like Comic Relief or whatever, you all had a t-shirt. Everybody had a special t-shirt with a brand printed on it, because that's just what you did. But she's actually got proper full-on 80s shoulder pads underneath her t-shirt.
In a t-shirt. Never seen it. Never seen anything before or since.
Why
like
did we
that.
do it? Well, I didn't. I was too young, but
no. Well, luckily it was a female. I think it was a female only.
No, I don't think it was.
Was it not?
No, I don't think so.
Oh God, no, she had like MC Hammer.
Yeah. Those like really suavely cut suits.
Oh, show my age now.
You could have had shoulder pads too, if only you were a little bit older.
I could have. Amusing anecdote for you. A friend of mine that I used to work with a little while ago, when he was at school, he used to tell all the people that he went to school with that he was MC Hammer's son, and he learned to dance.
Because that would be, more proof than anybody needed that he was his son.
If you can do the hammer dance, then you're clearly related to MC Hammer.
Obviously.
Bless him.
Oh dear.
Oh, we've got another comment. Another one from Kerry. I think the first ghost show I can remember was Sightings in the USA, and they were all parapsychologists, not ghost hunters.
Oh, I've never seen that one. I might have to look for that on YouTube.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah?
I think I might have stumbled across it on YouTube a time or two.
Okay.
I'm sure it rings a bell. But nothing solid. I'm going to have to look that up and have a look. But again, it sounds very similar to what we had over here.
It sounds like the ghost hunters.
Yeah, it was very much people that were interested in investigating from an academic point of view.
Yeah.
Rather than, well, like we have now, and shouting at things and, move this!
The equipment back in those days was like a notepad and pen.
Yeah.
And some string.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, even a tape recorder would have been sort of a big clunky thing, wouldn't
it? Probably beyond people's means a lot of the time.
Yeah, stuff wasn't cheap back then.
No. Especially not equipment like that.
Oh, they're apple bobbing.
And we just had our first caller, I think, as well. So they had this, they had a real phone line that people could call in. And some of those calls were screened by, I think, forgotten the department, but real people basically, who could give advice if people were actually concerned about that they had a real haunting. But they also would allow you to tell a ghost story, as what they asked people to do as part of the show was ring up and tell us if you've had a real paranormal experience. So you could actually, if you managed to get through to somebody, you could have told them.
They do tell people's paranormal experiences in the show, and from what I remember you telling me, they're people's real experiences. So it's only the stuff that's going on screen that's not real. When they have the people on to tell their own experiences, that is actually what's happened to them. And we've just had like one of we've had a jump scare on the Ghost Watch. Craig Charles has jumped out of a cupboard and scared Sarah Green
with a mask.
And again, it's just so brilliantly timed. It's like there's been nothing really exciting happening so far. So they put up a little bit of tension. You know, oh, did you hear that thing in the cupboard? And then Craig Charles jumps out, give him a scare. Everybody has a laugh, and it's one of those it's a technique. I can't remember what it is, but it's like a filmmaking technique. It's like draw them in, little shock, relief.
Again, that was one of the complaints from a parent, was that nothing happened for the first 40 minutes, and and yet that first 40 minutes terrified their child so much that they were, they were disturbed for weeks afterwards. And I can kind of see what she means, because the fact that nothing happens for 40 minutes is part of the realism.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't.
And that's what drew me in, I think, was that it wasn't...
Nothing was happening.
Nothing was happening to start with. And any of you that have lived in a haunted house will know that even at the most haunted places, it's not every day, it's not every 5 minutes. Sometimes it can be weeks or months between anything happening. Yeah. And I just had to pop on and put Kerry's comment on there because it was hilarious. They never said dude to each other.
No.
No, they certainly didn't.
They just puffed their pipes.
They did puff their pipes. They might have a pint. It was quite regularly they'd film something in a pub.
They were in a pub, yeah, they were usually in a pub.
So you'd have the chinking of glasses and the muttering in the background, and they'd be supping a pint of something as they discussed their ghosts. But yeah, no dudes.
No dudes. No. To be fair, a lot of the time the haunted location they were talking about was the pub.
Yeah,
we do have an awful lot. We have a lot of haunted pubs.
I dare say that's probably why they chose them. It's like, right, well, we've got a list of these. Do you want to go to this castle that's on an island?
Castle.
Or the pub?
Or the pub.
Wow.
Oh, please.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, we've missed a bit.
Yeah, so we've got.
Where have we got to now? All right, so the mum's taking them around the house, and it's all so well done because they've got the camera crew following Sarah Green around the house.
Yeah.
And you can see, like you would do when they're doing live TV for real, you've got the sound man with the boom, and you've got cables trailing behind them because, of course, nothing was wireless.
Yeah.
And it's all, and the eldest child is sort of turned away from the camera. She's like, oh, don't film me. I don't really want to be on it, which is very realistic. Oh, she's got Care Bear duvet cover.
Oh man, I'll tell you a little story here. I don't know if I've told it on the show before.
What about Care Bears?
Yeah.
What?
Well, no. Funnily enough, it was the woman whose house we were at when I was watching Ghost Watch. Her daughter and I were born on the same day, which is how our parents got to be friends. And anyway, one day it was our birthday, and she got to choose the film we were going to see, and she wanted to go and see Care Bears.
Of course she did.
Of course, I had to go and see Care Bears as well. The only problem was, after buying our ice creams and heading into the cinema, it turned out we'd got the wrong screen, and it wasn't Care Bears. It was
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
And how old were you?
Oh, well, when did Ghostbusters come out?
I don't know. I think I was about 7.
I think I was even younger than that.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
no, but that's when I saw it, so it would have been on TV, so it must have been before.
Oh, yeah, so it must have been like 1984, so it must have been like 4 or 5. But the funny thing, but we'd gone in, we were watching it for a couple of minutes, and we'd obviously, I can't see how anyone would think that this is a bit odd for Care Bears, and I wonder if the Care Bears are going to come out in a minute when you've got Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray talking about ghosts. But I had my ice cream and I was quite happy. You know, I wasn't really fussed about Care Bears, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going to be quite interesting eating my ice cream. And then the library ghost does its thing and comes at the screen. My mother is sat next to me. And I just went, ah, and shoved my ice cream up her nose. And then we left, and I didn't get to see the rest of Ghostbusters, which was sad.
Oh, how many years was it till you saw the rest of Ghostbusters?
I don't know. It must have been years later.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember.
It wasn't on TV. We had to wait for things to come to TV.
Oh yeah, that took
and they took
years.
Like, we had to wait for Christmas after Christmas for the
well,
films.
the stuff had come out in the States, and then like 6 or 9 months later, it would come out in the cinema here, and then
it would come out to TV. It'd be years.
Yeah, it'd come out on sort of VHS and Betamax.
Betamax.
Yeah, it came out on tape again, sort of 6 to 9 months after it was in the cinemas here, and then probably.
Yeah, but we were never allowed to buy those because they were really expensive though. VHS tapes were super duper expensive. Like,
you rent them though, don't you? We used to go to the local video rental shop. I'd ride up on my bike.
Yeah. Well, at the time though, we lived in a village when I was really young, and we didn't have a video shop. We had a man that came round with a suitcase full of videos.
That sounds so dodgy.
Just sounds dodgy. But at the time, it was perfectly normal. It was just this chap with a suitcase in the back of his car, and he used to come into your he used to come into your house and open his suitcase of videos.
Pipes!
So this is the first sighting.
Yeah, they do it so well.
Oh,
and even in the studio, they come back and go, "Oh, did you see something there?" And they rewind the tape. But when they play it back,
it's gone.
It's not the same tape, so they're playing it back and there's nothing there. It's so well done.
And I don't think I didn't see this at the time.
I don't think I saw any of Pipes the first time round.
No,
I
definitely
not
didn't
a
see
single
this.
one.
And this is, again, it wouldn't work so well now, because now, of course, you
could pause TV and rewind it.
You can rewind it.
Yeah.
You probably taped it. It's not a problem. But back then, you know, once it was gone, it was gone. That was it. And this is just a flash.
Yeah.
They're filming the girls in the bedroom. They're asleep. I think this is again one of the university tapes, isn't it? One of the pre-recorded tapes that they're showing in the studio now, and they're saying, "Oh, this is part of the university study. We recorded this," and they don't point it out. A viewer, a pretend viewer, calls it in and said, "Oh, you know, I've rung up to tell you my ghost story, but in actual fact, before I get into that, when you played that footage earlier, I'm sure I saw something in the corner." And so they play it, they get it up on screen, and they play it, and you can see just in the shape of the curtains, in a shadowy bit of the darkness, there's this figure. And the first time you see it, you're like, there is.
Yeah.
There's something there. There's a figure. And it's quite, well, it's not clear, but it's obvious.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that there's a figure there. And so the presenters and even the doctor that's believing that has been there and working with the kids and believes them, they're both sitting there, her and Parky, going, "No, I don't see anything. Can we just rewind it?"
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there going, "But he's there. He's there. Look, he's there." And they're going, No, I don't see anything. We'll rewind it." And when they rewind it, they play a different bit, unbeknownst to us.
Yeah.
They play a different bit of tape, claiming it's the same thing, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then they even go one better, though, and go, "Oh, I think I can see what's happened. Just get me the laser pointer," which was on you at the time. "Just get me the laser pointer. And look, if you look at this bit of curtain here and the way that fabric is falling, you could just think that that's a shoulder and an outline."
Yeah.
And then you doubt yourself, because of course, as viewers,
so well done.
You've only seen it for a split second. And then now the people that you are supposed to trust, like the expert and Parkinson, who's a household name, are saying, no, we didn't see it. But look, I think it's just a trick of the eye. Yeah. And you're just completely drawn in by it. It's incredible.
And we're so used to it now with all the, the top 5 ghost videos and stuff that you can find on YouTube.
And the red circle.
Yeah, the red circles. Yeah. If you need to have a red circle around it, it's probably not. But we're so used to that now. Yeah, I put that up because it's funny. We're so used to it now, where we see these things and it's just a glimpse, and we do it. We'll sit at home and go, "Oh, I didn't catch that."
Oh,
rewind it a couple of times and watch it.
Yeah.
But this is all the sightings of pipes in this are just blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
And they play on that. They play on it
It's
so well.
clever.
But if you did catch it, like when I watch it now, I'm just like, how can somebody miss that? And I can
It's only
imagine.
because you know it's there, though.
I can imagine though, if you think it's real and you see that and you're like, oh my god,
It's
it's actually
terrifying.
yeah. I can see how people would believe it.
So, did you believe that it was real when you first watched it?
Certainly up to this bit, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't by the time it got later on. I don't want to give too much away for people that are watching along. But yeah, up to this point, I certainly did. I hadn't seen the very start, so I think I've missed the first 5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd come in at around about the point, I think, where the vans turn up.
Yeah.
And we got Craig Charles, and we go in, and it's like, oh, spooky, wooky things are happening, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And I'd kind of followed along from there. And there was nothing so far that made my little 12-year-old brain go, hang on.
Yeah.
I was probably quite a gullible child anyway, but there was nothing so far that really blew it for me.
No. And they've put so much detail into it. At the moment, Sarah Green's talking to the mother and asking them sort of about the backstory and why they've got the TV involved. And their answer to that is, again, they're just trying to make it as believable as possible and succeeding, really. They're going through newspaper clippings and things like newspaper clippings that they've made for this, obviously. Yeah. And the mother's saying, well, we went to the papers, got hold of it, and they just called us crazy, and they made a circus of the house and made a mockery of us. And we wanted to get the TV on board to show people that it's real, so that they'd stop taking the mickey out of us, basically, which you can kind of, you can understand.
Yeah, the newspaper clippings were very badly done.
They
were really proud of them on the programme we watched. But when we look back at this, there was nothing on the other side. They were clearly just like photocopied bits of paper.
But I think, though, the quality of TV that most people were watching this on at the time, you wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, this was before widescreen, before HD. The quality wasn't necessarily as good. And
it would have
when you swept along in the story,
you're not really
going to
looking
notice.
At it. No.
It's like in films now when they have fake money and stuff, and you don't notice.
No, it's not what you're looking for, is it?
Yeah, because I think like in America, if you do a film with money, you've got to use this fake money.
Yeah.
And it's actually got like written on it, sort of, this is fake film money. And you don't notice when you're watching the program because you're invested in the program.
Yeah.
You'd probably spot it if you were specifically looking for that. Because we've seen it quite a few times, we watched this quite a few times recently doing the research for this. We're spotting things like that because we're keeping an eye out.
And we've seen it so many times.
But you didn't occur to me at the time.
No.
It was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll look that up in the newspaper.
Yeah.
On microfiche at the library.
On microfiche. I remember microfiche when I worked in a library. Well, I'm sure they still have microfiche, actually.
Yeah, I remember going in and twiddling the things to look up stuff in the old newspapers. God,
so we've got more people calling in now.
Yeah.
So what happened was they showed the sighting of pipes, and Parky and what's the doctor's name? I can't remember now.
I can't remember. But she's actually the producer, isn't she?
No, one of the callers was the producer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But now they've got more people calling in, even though they've said, "Oh no, we can't see anything there. We don't think there's anything to that." Mike Smith, Sarah Green's husband, is in the call centre behind like the screen, going, "Oh, well, we've got lots of viewers now calling in to say that they saw the same thing." Oh, the Estes method, the Gansfield experiment. I mean,
that I'd completely forgotten about this.
I had.
And again, it's quite an old experiment. I think it was the 60s originally when they did the Gansfield experiment. But for anybody that's been watching like Week in Weird and Haunt Me and things like that, and they've been doing the Estes method, they do this on Ghost Watch effectively. Yeah. They cover the eyes, they put sort of white noise through the headphones, they lay them in a quiet room.
You've got ping pong balls over
their eyes to isolate them. And they sort of, it's not sort of hypnosis, but
no, it's like sensory deprivation. But they've just played a clip of the university footage. So all the way through, all the way through, they're playing these clips of the university's investigation footage. So the clip they just played now, just then, was one of the children, one of the daughters, undergoing like the Gansfield experiment.
And now they're playing an audio recording on a reel-to-reel tape.
Yes.
Of her doing Pipe's voice.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, it's lifted straight from the Enfield.
Yeah.
Poltergeist. I mean, if you've ever heard any of the Enfield Poltergeist tapes, you'll know that particular, the raspy, gravelly. I was smushing two words
And this
together.
is coming from like a 9 or 10-year-old girl.
We're gonna have a new Pipe sighting.
Oh,
if anybody's watching, Pipes is coming up. You look behind Dr. Lynn Pascoe's shoulder. There you go. Just remember the name. Because this back of the studio goes dark. We're zooming in on Lynn Pascoe and Parky and the reel-to-reel. I'm sure this is where we're gonna have a Pipe sighting.
You better be right now.
I know. I'm really hoping I'm not wrong now. Oh, there's Parky. There's his close-up. There he is. There's Pipes. There's Pipes.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
That is creepy. And see, when you know it's there,
yeah,
it's
so obvious when you know it's there. But that could just be part of the crew. He's not in enough detail.
No, it could, if you weren't looking for it, you could easily just think that's a crew member behind her and not think anything of it. But the fact, like looking at it now, the fact that they've sort of faded to black behind the two characters, you know, they've darkened the background, they've zoomed, they've cropped right into them, and then we've focused on this reel-to-reel in the centre. And of course, you guys can't hear it, but the audio is it's just like the Enfield Haunting. It's this raspy, gravelly voice. And is it a nursery rhyme that it's saying?
I remember.
I know a nursery rhyme features really heavily in this. We can't really hear what's going on because they've got the sound turned down so low.
This is the bit where they sort of try and get her to make the voice on her own. It's like, oh, well, she can't make that voice on her own.
Yeah, so they've again, it's been copied really straight from the Enfield Haunting. The story in this is that the eldest girl, she gets sort of taken over by the spirit in the house, and this man's voice, this awful man's voice, comes out of her, which is exactly what happened in Enfield. And this photo, now they've got a photo on the screen that's supposedly, again, a university photo of this investigation.
But it could be from the Enfield.
It's a mirror image. Well, it's a copy. It's a straight up copy.
Blatantly a copy.
The girls in the bedroom with the pillows flying around. They've even done it in black and white to make it look more like the Enfield Haunting.
So a question. Do you guys know brown sauce seance?
No, I don't know brown sauce seance, but now I want a bacon sandwich. And you said brown sauce. Thanks for making me hungry. What's brown sauce seance?
It's new to me. Yeah. Okay.
So now we're looking at
broken crockery.
Yeah, Dr. Lynn Pascoe and Parky are going through some broken crockery, and this is quite important. They're setting you up now for things to spot later on when the activity starts to kick off. So the doctor's telling Parkinson that this is like a common phenomenon in the house, that watches will stop, clocks will stop, and that crockery will appear broken. And if I remember correctly, she says that she had some like a military facility look at the crockery, and they said that the only way it could have been broken like that was by intense heat.
Oh yeah.
Like it wasn't broken by impact, it was broken by, I think it was intense heat or cold or something like that. But it's just one of those things that like we then see things later that tie into that, so it's kind of an important point to note.
Another interesting anecdote, the clock stopping and watches stopping. When my granddad died, my mum's watch stopped at the time he died, and the carriage clock that he bought her also stopped at the same time he died. And years later, she was having an upset stomach one night. She went downstairs to just sort of walk around until she felt better, and all of a sudden this clock that hadn't worked for years made a sort of fizzing noise and then started. And then when she went back to bed, and when she checked it again in the morning, it had stopped at the time she'd gone to bed as well. So
so that is, you know, a real.
But again, it just shows the research they do. They pull up things that are sort of, I'm not going to say known to happen, because
documented though.
Documented things that are believed to happen at sort of paranormal encounters and things. You know, they're really
They've done
They're
a
really
really good
pushing
job
to
on the
make it
research.
believable. So my head's getting a bit shiny.
Do you need to do an adjust?
Yeah, I need to do a head adjust.
Well, one of the reasons they did such a good job on the research was that they got Guy Lyon. I always say
Guy
Leon.
Playfair.
Is it Leon or Lion? Guy Playfair.
Guy Playfair.
Guy Playfair. And he wrote the book. He literally wrote the book on the Enfield haunting. I can't remember what it's called. This House is Haunted, I think it was called. So he was there at the Enfield haunting, investigating as part of the Society for Psychical Research with Maurice Grosse. And they got him on as a consultant when they were writing this.
Which may well be why it's so close to the Enfield haunting.
Absolutely. That's who it was on the phone line. I've just remembered. You know, I said I couldn't remember who. Oh, lights have gone out. Oh no! What happened? We must have done. We will endeavour to get the pretty lights back on. We don't know what happened. Oh, how rude. Yeah. So when I said when I said I couldn't remember who they had manning the phones, I'm sure the producer, Leslie Manning, said at one point that they had people from the Society of Psychical Research on the phones because they were concerned in case people rang in with their real ghost stories and had, you know, paranormal problems. Oh, and they wanted somebody, you know, that knew about paranormal things to answer the phones and be able to give advice. Is that the right? Yeah. Is that the right setting? No, that's the moving one. I just had it on the still one. Our battery must have run out. Oh, how rude. I charged that as well. Oh, no. There you go.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Do Americans know what brown sauce is?
I don't know.
Not being American, I wouldn't want to assume.
Tiff might know. Tiff,
yes.
Do you guys have brown sauce? Because you know what brown sauce is now.
I think
HP sauce.
From what I remember, it's closest to like A1 steak sauce, but it's kind of like a really, it's like a really spicy. It's got a lot of molasses, but it's not sweet. Brown sauce. It's
spiced, isn't it?
Yeah, very heavily spiced.
It's got like clove in it and all sorts.
Yeah, it's very much a sort of British institution, I think.
Yeah, the only time you really eat it though is with bacon sandwich or like with sausages.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a sort of breakfasty thing. I'm sure someone's going to come in now and go, "You heathens! Of course you have brown sauce with this and that and the other." It's also really good. Beans. It's also really good in like bolognese and stuff to sort of
just to add flavour.
Yeah, to give it a little something extra.
Yeah, it's kind of like is it malt?
Oh yeah, heard of it, but we don't have it. We have A1. Blech. I don't think I've ever tried A1.
No,
but I've heard people mention that it's yeah. Well, I think it's called steak sauce, but I can't imagine ever wanting to have HP with steak, so I can't imagine it's that similar.
There's not a lot you have HP with though, is there?
No, really. Generally sort of bacon, sausages, eggs. I can't.
Might be sold there now.
Yeah.
No, I guess you don't then.
Yeah.
Oh, you're missing out. Yeah. Well, I think you are. Anyway, I love brown sauce.
Do you like a bit of HP? It's certainly.
So we just had the skeptic on.
Yeah.
The skeptic streaming in from New York.
Yeah.
With a terrible, terrible backdrop. It was supposed to look like New York and didn't at all.
Oh no! It was clearly in like somebody's broom cupboard. It was hilarious.
I think they had a picture up like this behind him.
Yeah. So, if any of you are watching, can you tell me who you think he sounds like?
Yeah. Close your eyes and listen.
I've forgotten his name. I can picture him in my head.
I'll tell you, but give people.
Yeah, we'll give them a couple of minutes to check it out.
Yeah, so we just had the skeptic on. No, for me, thanks. Do you know what brown sauce, Tiff?
Oh, I love brown
That's
sauce.
A travesty. Yeah, we just had the skeptic on, and he really riled up Dr. Lynn Pascoe.
He's just like, for idiots to believe in things like that.
Yeah, he was so dismissive, and he, like you say, he must have been written to just put the hackles up, basically. I think they very much must have done it deliberately. And it works.
It puts you on the side of the parapsychologist.
Because he's so annoying.
Yeah.
You're like, no,
I don't want to agree with him.
You're such a git. I'm going to side with her, even if I don't believe in ghosts.
Oh, don't ask what Buckfast is.
What's that?
It's like a fortified wine thing.
Fortified wine, like sherry?
No.
No?
I don't know exactly what it is, but basically you only drink it if you...
Spiritual wine. No, I've never heard of that. We miss out on a lot of British goodies.
Buckfast isn't a British goodie. Don't worry, you're not missing out on anything.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Bucks Fizz, however.
Bucks Fizz.
We have Bucks Fizz. That's good.
It's not bad. Wouldn't say no. Well, I would say no because I can't.
Well, you
drink
can't.
anything at the moment.
We only have Bucks Fizz at Christmas. It was what you drank on Christmas morning. I think that's the only time anybody ever drinks Bucks Fizz, isn't it? On Christmas morning.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit expensive to drink any other time if you pop in bottles of champagne. I've never been that rich.
We're back in the house again now, and this again is just so common, so what we were used to.
Yeah,
you'd have a bit in the studio, you'd have the experts talking, you'd have the experts arguing, and then you go back to the family and the roving reporter.
Yeah, it's been like 40 minutes and we've had 2 pipe sightings.
But
one of them
so
subtle
won't have
you
seen
wouldn't have
them.
noticed them.
No.
One that we've sort of had that letdown where it's like, oh no, we've had a look and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And it's all sort of everyone sat at home, and now it's like, oh well, the kids are going to go to bed and we're just going to see if anything happens now. And they've still got that sort of calm vibe, and nothing's, they're still like, nothing's really happened, and there's going to be a bombshell in a minute.
Yeah, but it's just struck me how we're being taken around the house, partly with the cameramen that are sort of running around after Sarah Green and trailing all their cables behind them, but partly with these like locked off cameras that we're so familiar with now.
Yeah.
These kind of CCTV style cameras that they've got, like taped all around the house in the corners, and you've got this aerial shot looking down. And you've got like camera 1, camera 2, camera 3.
Yeah.
But where had you seen that before in TV?
No, I haven't.
That this was TV that we just didn't know.
It was like film techniques.
Yeah.
If you were sort of impersonating a CCTV camera, perhaps, or you just wanted a different perspective, but yeah. It's almost like it set the pattern for ghost hunters going forward.
Well, I think it did. And hilariously, Sarah Green wasn't necessarily the first choice to play this part. There were other people that they were going to ask, and one of them was Yvette Fielding. She, I think, was offered the part before Sarah Green was, and she turned it down because people warned her off it basically and said, oh no, you don't want to be associated with all that ghost stuff, it'll give you a bad name. And then of course Yvette Fielding went on to front Most Haunted. So she turned this down because she didn't want to be associated with it, and then she did Most Haunted, and it's quite widely recognised that this show basically set the template for Most Haunted.
One of the crew's watch just stopped, so they're doing a little bit of foreshadowing.
And now also we've got a shot of the kitchen, and we can see a line of cups hanging up on the counter, and just bearing in mind what was said earlier about all the crockery being smashed, that's quite, if you're watching, keep an eye on those cups. You might see something a bit later. Keep an eye on that. Well, the kids have just come downstairs.
Yeah, again, watching it now, they're so... what's the word? It's
stilted.
Yeah, stilted. They're not quite.
The kid actors
they're clearly
aren't
acting.
Quite. Yeah.
But again, at the time, I didn't notice, didn't twig. It didn't sort of cross my mind that they might be faking at this point.
I think though Parkinson and Sarah Green and Craig Charles, because they were just playing themselves, and although they were scripted, they let them ad lib a lot.
Yeah.
They carried it. You just didn't look any further than that because they were so believable. So we've got one of the I was going to say listener stories because I'm on my podcast head on. One of the true stories on, and this is actually a member of the TV crew. So this is a real experience that happened to him, and it's actually quite. If I remember it, this is the one. It's a really weird one.
I can't remember what happened to this.
No, they've like blurred his face out so you can't see who he is.
But yeah, most of the stories that they do on this were actually really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they were quite happy to do it, bearing in mind what the rest of the program was about, and they would clearly have known that. Yeah, it's weird. But again, it keeps you hooked, it keeps you interested, and they're going to give you like a real twist in a minute.
Well, I think by this point, everybody would have been. I'm trying to sort of cast my mind back, but it's got that telethon feel to it. And back in the sort of 80s and 90s, when we used to have these like comic relief telethons and things like that, you sort of just sat back and let it wash over you.
Yeah.
Because nothing was really going to happen. And I think by having nothing happen for such a large part of this, it lulled you into that full sense of security.
And
you weren't expecting anything
riveted to the screen. And that made it easier to miss the pipe sightings and things like that. And then when like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Oh, damn it, I missed the exciting bit again. And I'm pretty sure that happened to me quite a few times. Almost all the pipe sightings. We're going to have another pipe sighting in a minute. He's in the crowd, isn't he?
You got pipes, yeah. We've got another pipe sighting coming up in a minute. And I think the writer, is this where the writer Stephen Volk makes a cameo in the crowd as well?
He's in this crowd.
So Craig Charles has run off as the roving reporter.
But yeah, it hit a real downer on this bit, didn't it?
Yeah, this is where it takes a turn for the darker. It up until this point, it's been quite sort of, you could get away with it being on kids' TV. There's nothing really that disturbing apart from the voice. The bit where they play the audio of like pipes speaking through the little girl, that's
a bit creepy.
That's creepy. Again, it's a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
But then, so was the
but again, I didn't notice that at the time.
No.
I don't think it was over the top at the time. Not yet.
No.
Later on, I would.
But it's been quite sort of all fun and games so far. There's been nothing that dramatic. And at this point where Craig Charles goes off, and it's worse as well because he's so cheery and happy-go-lucky and he's messing around and he's not really taking his role as a reporter seriously. He's deliberately being facetious and kind of irritating. And so he goes off to interview some of the neighbours, and they're telling him that there's sometimes they've had to take these poor kids and their mother in the middle of the night.
There's one coming up any second.
Yeah.
If you're watching now, when he walks back past the group of people, Pipes is
in the crowd.
Any second now, he's
no, not yet.
Oh, is it not?
Because the ladies have taken him to the park. So the neighbours are telling Craig Charles about what their kids found, and I'm not going to read it out because it's really nasty. But this is where it takes a really dark turn, and it's a proper sucker punch because you're comfy, you're just lulled into this false sense of security.
Nothing much has happened.
It's just your regular 80s, 90s telethon. You've got cozy presenters that you're familiar with. Nothing's happened. You're not expecting anything to happen at this point. And then all of a sudden, these neighbours tell Craig Charles about some stuff that happened in the neighbourhood and some stuff that they found. And there's Pipes is in the crowd. There he is. Oh, and you can see him again. You can see him a couple of times in full makeup as well.
Yeah.
So these ladies are telling Craig Charles this really dark and quite yuck story. And for anybody listening, it would have been so shocking.
Yeah, that was weird because he kind of still tries to maintain his jokey
laugh it off kind
persona,
of thing.
but it's not the sort of thing you laugh and joke about.
No, it's not.
It goes a bit flat there, and I think again that's just to distract you from the upcoming Pipes. So you're busy going, oh, that's a bit. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable about that.
I don't like that. I wasn't expecting it. That's a bit much.
And it throws.
And that was one of the most complained about scenes. Because I
I'm
mean, you don't
surprised.
see anything. You don't see anything. All it is Craig Charles talking to two women on a dark playing field. But what they tell him, and it's so off the cuff as well. They're just like, oh, well, it was this. They don't go into it in big dramatic detail. They just say it very matter of factly, but the actual subject is really quite.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's not fantastic. But again, I think it's that distraction. Again, it throws you.
And then Craig Charles kind of bounces off, and you can tell he's a bit like, I'm not really sure how to deal with that, so I'm just going to continue to be Craig Charles. And then as you walk past, there's a crowd behind a barrier. There's kind of partitioned off the people of the street. They're all congregating in the street because that's what you'd do if you had a film crew in your street. You'd get outside and you'd be like, "Hi, Mum."
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Well, no,
I know a lot of people would.
A lot of people would. And at the back of that crowd, there's Pipes. Okay, so we're back in the house now, and Sarah Green has found a mysterious damp patch that has appeared on the carpet. And she's going to take a very scientific sample of it with the cameraman's puffer brush, which I'm not quite sure how she thought that was going to work. But
No. And a bit of tissue.
And a bit of tissue. Some really scientific sample collecting going on, Sarah Green.
I'm not sure. Oh, she's checking the ceiling.
Yeah, she's checking the ceiling.
She's going to check the light fitting.
There's a damp patch that's mysteriously appeared on the floor, so she's checking she's wiping the lampshade down to see if it's coming through the roof.
Hi, Dylan.
Hello, Dylan.
Yes, they're checking the ceiling to see if there's anything come from there. And again, it's kind of this normalcy.
Yeah.
It's what you might do if this sort of thing happened. And
yeah, she's being very practical about it. She's sniffing it. I wouldn't sniff it. Why would you do that, Sarah Green? What were you thinking?
It's kind of the cheesiness that makes you think that it's more believable. If it was too slick, again, you'd think, you know, oh, here we go with a little puffer.
Yeah, they're saying, can you take a sample? So Dr. Lynn Pascoe in the studio is saying, Sarah, can you take a sample? And she's like, yes, I'll borrow the cameraman's puffer brush and just suck some out of the carpet, because that'll work.
It's just, you wouldn't get away with this today.
No.
Because, again, nothing's really happened. We're, what, 10:15 now? So you're like 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And you've not really...
Well, we know stuff's happened because we know to look out for the pipe sightings. But anybody watching this the first time around, they might have caught one.
Yeah.
Possibly. But that would be
And even then, they wouldn't be sure.
No.
Because they'd have gone back over it and said, you know, oh, there was nothing there after all.
And there was no rewind. So Dr. Lynn Pascoe is getting a bit smug now.
Yeah.
Because they found this mysterious thing. Things are starting to happen. She's like, I told you.
Yeah, told you. And then they're going to bring in the skeptic again later to bash her down because she starts getting a bit too cocky as well. Does.
Sarah gets spooked by the tap. Not great, Sarah.
No, but again, it's just these silly little things like she's turned it on too fast and she's got water on herself, and it's stuff that you kind of like, oh, you know, I believe that could be real and that could happen. So well, like, planned out.
It was just genius. I don't think they had any idea at how genius it was at the time, though.
No. Well, I don't know. If you listen to sort of Stephen Volk when he tweets and writes about things, he was like, you know,
he knew
I knew
we
were onto something special and blah, blah, blah. And I think if I'd have written something like this, I'd have been proud of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he definitely is, and you know, he has a right to be. And to be honest, even on that bite back we were watching, the very last thing they said was, I think the question from the crowd or presenter was, would you do this again? Bearing in mind all the backlash they had from it. And I can't remember if it was the writer or the director said, well, you know, I would do it differently so I don't get this backlash. Yeah. But I'm proud of it. Like, it's a good piece of TV.
It did what it set out to do.
But even the people that had come into the studio on Bite Back to specifically complain, a lot of them prefaced their complaint with, it was a really good bit of TV.
Yeah, it was an amazing bit of television. But
it was really good, but I hate you.
It's almost like, you know, I'm not a parent, but if your kid does something really naughty at school, but really
cleverly naughty,
and you're just like,
I cannot condone this.
So impressed with you being clever, but I've got to tell you off, sort of thing. And it's very much like that. Dylan just said, we're awfully close to the moon.
We are very close to the moon. Isn't it beautiful?
Yes,
but it is a full moon tonight. It's a full blue moon tonight, so we've just brought it indoors with us. Oh, they've just had a hoax call. Well, not a hoax caller, but they've had because in the studio they keep taking like viewers' calls, and they threw one in there from somebody that was basically being silly, that was being an idiot. And again, it just makes it feel more real. Yeah. And Parkinson's laughing it off, and oh yes, I see what you're doing there. You're pulling a prank. Ha ha ha. Let's go back to the house. It's just all these little things that, oh, they're so clever.
Little touches that I don't think I would necessarily have thought of.
No.
It's because this is like the first time this has happened. Like if you went back now, you could sort of put a lot of these things in because they're almost tropes.
They're known tropes now, but I think a lot of them, this was the first time that they'd ever been used.
This is where it starts to get interesting. They're hearing banging. And the reason that Pipes is called Pipes is because the parents said that the knocking noises were being caused by the pipes that were just settling in the night.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's lived in an older house, I'm sure you'll know what that is. I grew up in like Victorian and Edwardian houses with lead pipes, and when you turned the water on, the pipes knocked and banged and roared, and they made all sorts of noises. So to start with, the parents
like, don't worry, it's just the pipes. So they've called it pipes.
Oh, the TV camera went a bit funny.
The TV went a bit
fuzzy. Oh, Sarah Green's running around now trying to chase down the noises.
She's lost the studio.
There's another pipe sighting coming up.
Another pipe sighting coming
Sarah
up.
Green is
looking
crawling
the
along the
reflection
floor.
in the window.
Yeah, look in the patio window reflection. So she's picking up the kids' drawings. The kids' colouring in has been strewn all over the floor. They don't know how. Oh, there he is! He's in the patio window. Oh, in the reflection. Do you see it?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it was coming. I didn't see it the first time round.
No, even though when I pointed it out.
Completely missed it. Didn't twig at all the first time round.
Yeah, so they raced downstairs because they can hear banging and they're trying to chase down the noises. And when they got down there, all the kids' drawings had been just thrown all over the floor. They're everywhere. Sarah Green's gone to like scoop them up, and she's been scared by a cat outside in the patio window. But as the camera pans up, you see pipes' reflection. Well, pipes in the reflection of the window.
But now they're hearing, and again, it was blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
They didn't remark on it at all at the time.
No, nobody on the TV actually saw it.
But now they're hearing banging, and Sarah Green's going upstairs to have a look. We can see the girls' bedroom, but we can only see one of the girls.
Yeah, one of the daughters is missing. And again, this is from the locked off cameras.
Yeah.
So we can see that there's a locked off camera in the bedroom. There's one on the landing. In fact, I think there's a couple on the landing.
And they've got a pan tilt zoom camera. So they're like, where's the other girl? She must be in the corner of the room, blah, blah, blah. So they sort of pan and zoom in, and it's one of the girls making the banging noise. And I'm sure every skeptic that was at home watching this was like, I knew it. It was one of the girls. They're faking it all, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is going to ruin the programme now. And it's so well done, because I was like, that's a shame.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I was like, oh, it's the kids.
In fact, I think it wasn't long after this that I actually, I think I must have got sent to bed or something. I don't think I watched much. I don't know. Perhaps I did watch a little bit further. I honestly can't remember. I know I missed the end though, when it all starts really kicking off. But I know I heard a lot of the banging. So the most dramatic thing about that, in a way, that scene we just saw where they uncover one of the girls faking the banging noise, is the fact that we're not just watching it live from the house. We know that Parkinson and Dr. Lynn Pascoe are watching it live from the studio. So Dr. Pascoe, she's put her reputation on the line here. You know, she's a professor, she's from a university, she's categorically saying, no, this haunting is real, we've documented it, and now publicly on live TV, she's been disproved. And the skeptics are just, well, the television skeptic they're going to bring back on in a minute is just going to grind her into the ground.
But it's funny, on one hand, some of her acting is really hammy, but on the other hand, when it goes back to the studio after you find the girl banging on the pipes, her face is, it's
perfect.
Yeah, she's nailed that face exactly. And then she has to argue her case, like, okay, she may have been faking it this time, but the other times we've caught stuff, it couldn't have been her, and blah, blah, blah. But for Parky's,
well, he's done with it at that point. He's just that's, I never believed it in the first place. Now we can all see that it's just the girls putting it on. But again, this is drawn directly from the Enfield haunting, because this is exactly what happened. And this is why so many people said that the Enfield haunting, well, one of the reasons why a lot of people think the Enfield haunting has been disproved, because the girls involved in the real poltergeist case were caught. I don't know what they were caught doing, but faking
a couple of things, but nothing like major. And there were definitely times when activity happened and there were witnesses that said they couldn't have done, so don't know how reliable.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of cases where the activity happened and it just, there were so many people there that proved that were seeing that there was no possible way that it could have been perpetrated by the girls in question. But there were a couple of occasions where they were caught doing things like faking evidence.
But again, they play it quite cleverly.
Yeah.
because the girls, you know, they're terrified that people are just going to think they're silly because it's all going out on TV, and if nothing's happening, then the family's making it up and they're going to get ridiculed. So she's, you know, oh, I was just doing what you wanted. You wanted to see pipes. You know, we're just giving you what you wanted.
And that was exactly the same reaction with the Enfield haunting. And I think Maurice Gross and Guy Playfair defended the girls on this point. And you can understand why. They said the same thing, basically. By this point, you know, you've got a circus of reporters and people in the house that have all come to view this, the activity that's going on. And people are coming in expecting something to happen. And as we always say, it doesn't matter how haunted your house is. There's times when just nothing happens. Long times when nothing at all happens. And you can imagine that as teenage girls, skeptic man, as teenage girls, the pressure you must feel under, you know, having made these bold claims saying, this is true, you know, this controversial subject, it's happening to us, it's real, we know it's real, we can prove it's real. And then you've got people turn up on your doorstep and nothing happens. You must feel under so much pressure for something to happen. So that's the situation that they've put these girls in this show. They've done exactly the same thing. We've had 45 minutes of nothing happening, but then going on TV to tell the world they're not making it up. And the whole reason they're doing this show in the first place is to prove to people that it's real, because they were being ridiculed and mocked at school and by the papers, and nothing's happened. So they're feeling under pressure to make something happen.
Yeah.
And it's so believable.
Yeah. And then they bring the skeptic man back in to be like, oh, I told you it was all tosh, and you know, you should have listened to me in the first place.
And he's so smug.
Oh, you just want to throttle him. But have you guessed who he sounds like?
Have you remembered his name yet?
No.
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, that's it. He's a brilliant. He does a really good Jeff Goldblum impersonation. I don't know if he was intending to or not, but he nails that, Jeff Goldblum.
It's not just the sound of his voice either. It's like the measure of his speech, the lilt. Yeah, oh, it's really funny.
He does such a good job, and again, it keeps up the flow of this show.
Yeah,
it like gives you a little teaser and then lets you down gently and gives you a little teaser, and it constantly gives you that little bit just to keep you invested. And then I'm sure, you know, for these sort of 5-10 minutes, you've got thousands of people at home that like telling, oh, I told you it was fake, I told you it's fake, it's all rubbish and blah blah. And then, you know, it must have gone back and forth between so many people when this was live. Yeah, I can imagine there's couples and one of them's going, look, I saw it, and the other one's going,
no, it's
don't
rubbish.
Be silly. And then they're going, you saying that. It's like, oh, the kid's done it. Look, you can see the kids doing it.
Yeah.
And, I can imagine the arguments that happened up and
it must
down
have
the
actually been really tense.
Perhaps
that's why so many people got upset, you know, as well. Part of the problem.
They did.
So there's still now things are starting to happen. So even though they reckon that everything's been disproved, and it was the girls, you know, doing the banging, and they're kind of thinking, you know, is there any point going on? But presumably they've got a time slot to fill, and it's quite clever actually, because they must be coming up to the hour mark now.
Yep.
Yeah. So
bang on an hour.
Bang on an hour. So just before they hit the hour mark, they're saying that they've had the girls sort of disproved that they're doing the banging, but it's believable to think, well, they'd just carry on to fill the hour, like to the end of the hour slot, because it's so close. So they've got a few more callers on, but now the video screen's starting to be affected, because we had a real story, like a real viewer story, up on the big screens in the studio, and something happened in the middle of it, and it all ground to a halt.
Yeah. And
now we've had somebody ring in with some quite important information about the area, I think.
Oh, is this when they start talking about ley lines?
No, I don't think so. Might have to listen for a minute, hang on. Oh,
this is where they're complaining about the kids. Yeah, and Parky's just like, well, it's past the watershed, they shouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
She's like, well, my kids got ever so scared by it.
And now the person ringing in is telling Dr. Lynn Pascoe that all their clocks have stopped. She's very distressed. They start having people calling in at this from this point onwards,
it gets a bit darker.
It gets a bit darker. The callers calling into the studio are saying that they're having paranormal activity happening at home. And this, I think, is one of the things that really frightened people watching. Because on TV, if you're thinking this is real by this point, if you've been sort of sucked in, you're thinking this is happening, now it's not just the fact that there's a haunting going on in somebody's house in London.
Yeah.
Now you've got people ringing into the BBC TV studios saying that because they're watching this, they're having paranormal activity happening in their home. They're saying they're having things moving. This caller that just rang in saying they had a glass table shatter, was it, or something?
I think so.
And that their clocks had stopped. I think one of the reports, I can't remember if it was this one or a later one, saying that their animals were acting funny.
Yeah.
So now, if you're watching this at home and thinking it's real, you're like, well, all these people are having stuff happen because they're watching it. Then that means there's the potential for me to have things happen in my house. And all of a sudden, it's not just something far removed from you in a television studio.
I think Darren Brown does similar things.
Yeah,
He's
he
done a
did the
few
seance,
things
didn't he?
where it's like, oh, see if anything happens to you at home.
Yeah, and that's terrifying because something scary on the TV is one thing.
But
something that's scary on the TV that can come into your house, that is a different matter.
This was an inspiration for Darren Brown to do that originally, wasn't it? Yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, well, it was an inspiration for a lot of things. I mean, Paranormal Activity, films Paranormal Activity, the writer of that actually did cite Ghostwatch as a direct inspiration for that. A lot of people think that the Blair Witch, all the found footage type films. And if you watch this and then watch Paranormal Activity, you will see parallels. Like, again, there's nothing much that happens for the first 40 minutes.
And that is what drew me into Paranormal Activity when I first saw it.
Yeah, we liked that until the end.
Yeah, I think if you cut that film off 2/3 of the way through,
it'd be great.
I'd have been terrified, and I'd have been like, oh, yep, been there. That's scary.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have been terrified. It was just more like, that's realistic.
Yeah, I don't know, and it got me quite, thinking back to stuff that's happened to us, and I think it was more that I could identify with it than it was scary itself.
Yeah.
But it was more the fact that, the big thumping and stuff like, I've been in that situation and that's quite scary.
Yeah.
But like when they go overboard, that's when it loses it for me. And again, they learned from the master.
They did. Yeah, they did exactly the same thing. Oh, so we've gone back to the house now.
Yeah, the mother's defending the kids and been like, there's no need to have a go at them. And
well, there's also the implication as well that on the one hand, there's the implication that the girls did it. They faked the evidence because people, as they said, we gave you what you wanted. They were trying to.
It says the video went out of sync.
Oh.
Paranormal was a good movie and a great VR game. I've not played the VR game. My PC's too old and clunky to play VR stuff, but maybe one day. But yeah, the films again. I think all the films were good up until about 2/3 of the way through, and then they lose me because they just go too far.
Oh, this scene. Okay, right. So we've got more stuff happening now. As I was saying, you've got the implication that the girls did it because that's what people were expecting. The other implication is that they're actually being taken over by the spirit and forced to do these things. So in fact, when the girl is caught banging, the first thing she says is, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me." So there's that idea that maybe she's not doing it under her own duress. Now we've come back upstairs and she's covered in scratches. She's got scratches all over her face. She's just rigid on the bed. She won't let anybody touch her. She's obviously in a lot of pain. Has she done this to herself? Has the ghost done this to her? We don't know. But the way they've framed this up is interesting.
But it's a big flap now to look after her, isn't there? It's kind of like, don't worry about whether it's the ghost or not.
We just need to take care of her.
We need to take care of her.
Sarah Green's mothering instinct comes out. But that scene where we see the girl in bed with scratches all over her, if you look closely, she's got like a sheet in her bed all wound up into like a rope. And I'm sure that there was, I need to look it up. I meant to look it up before we did this, but I'm sure there was something in the Enfield haunting about that. And it looks like somebody's twisted one of her bed sheets into a rope and it's all like wrapped around her. That's never addressed. And I've never seen it addressed in any of like the Q&As or the commentaries or the trivias or anything like that. So I don't know where that came from. or if it was significant. But it's almost, you can imagine it could have been a noose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's not the way you would normally have a sheet in a bed. It's really, it's tight, it's coiled.
Yeah, Dylan's going a bit geeky.
My
sort of thing. I use PlayStation VR tonight. I'm going to brave Resident Evil 7 VR
Oh,
absolutely terrifying VR.
What's that thing that Star Forger have been playing?
Oh, I can't remember.
What's it called? I'm gonna have to look it up. It's basically, is it a virtual reality game? It's a game where you go ghost hunting.
Yeah, I don't know if they play it in VR. They've got too much money if they have.
No, I don't think they play it in VR. I think it's just you have like a headset on, and it's.
Well,
I'm gonna look up what it's called. No, I mean like a microphone.
Oh yeah.
Not a proper headset.
But yeah, I never got to Resident Evil 7. I got about halfway through 1, and I never got time to finish it. And I tried 2, I think, and then never finished that either.
It's called Phasmophobia, so you might enjoy that.
Did I remember some water?
I've got some water.
Well done. Lil's always prepared.
I always have a litre of water on hand at all times.
And a torch and a knife
and a machete.
First aid kit and a machete. And...
The machete's up there, just in case you need it.
Oh, I just bumped myself on the nose.
Oh no. So we've got, now this is the caller. I thought it was before. So this lady is actually the producer.
Yeah.
Because the actor they got to deliver these lines to pretend to be this caller apparently didn't deliver it the way they wanted. So the director, producer, called up and did it. But the purpose of this call is to deliver information about the house and the area to the viewer that we didn't know before. And it adds to the seriousness of the situation because we've now got stuff that's starting to go on in the house. You know, the girls are being affected. Sarah Green's gone all motherly. They're worried about the girls. We're not worrying anymore about whether it's real, like you said. We're just worrying about the welfare of the children. And they're trying to get them to leave. So in the studio, you've got what we think of as a real life, like previous resident of the area, ringing up with very relevant information that adds gravity to the situation. In the house, the TV crew are trying to get the girls to leave. Now the youngest one is refusing to leave, saying that she can't go. She's having a conversation with the ghost in the corner of the room because the ghost doesn't want them to go, and she's talking to it. She starts to walk towards the dark corner of the room where there's pipes! I forgot about that sighting. You missed it.
But it's how easy to do. It's like bang, gone, and you just miss it. Yeah,
so the youngest girl starts talking to something that we can't see in the corner of the room, refusing to leave the house. She's in a right old state. She's having a proper paddy. And then we have a pan, like the camera pans around the bedroom after the girls have left, and just in a split second of the pan we see pipes again where the child was talking to the empty space in the corner of the room. And blinking, well, you did miss it.
Yeah, I knew it was coming and I missed it.
I forgot about that one.
Again, another perfect shot of the cool centre room, and there's rows of people at desks. I think that was more of an American thing than British one, where they have all the telephones and you have rows of people with answering telephones.
I remember it from sort of Saturday morning TV and Comic Relief and that kind of thing. It reminds me of the original Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Where they had like the bank of people on computers and headsets.
The only thing I remember of that sort of thing was Children Need.
Yeah, Children in Need.
But otherwise, it was more because they did that episode of Friends, didn't they, where Joey gets on to be a call answerer on telephone, and he's not in the shot, and and he's standing up. See, they've got post-its stuck all over their desk lamps. They're all busy writing with their headsets on and stuff, and they're making a big show that they're getting loads and loads of stuff in constantly. And they've got Mike Smith in there being sort of the spokesman of the telephone operators, which is see, and Sarah's losing signal to the studio again, and the cameras are going funny. The signal's gone a bit wonky. They can't get the girls to leave the house. So we're still not. Again, if you missed that pipe sighting like I did, it's still like, okay, we're having some technical issues, and the girls aren't, they're behaving a bit strangely, but nothing that you could say was too crazy.
But now we've got noises going. We've got thumping going on upstairs.
Yeah.
Sarah Green's getting frightened. We can all hear the noises. We can see the ceiling vibrating. Oh, a picture just leaps off the wall.
Yeah.
Which was a bit cheesy, if I'm
it
honest.
was a bit cheesy.
And in the trivia I was reading earlier, they do mention that
and
this is the kid speaking with the pipes voice.
That was creepy.
It is creepy.
See, this was the point where I kind of bought back into it.
Yeah, because she did a good job of that actress.
After seeing her knocking on the pipes originally, I was like, they've blown it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I thought I was going to enjoy this and it's going to be a real ghost. This is where I bought back in.
She looks so surprised by the voice coming out of her mouth. So this
I don't know if it was probably dubbed, but
yeah.
I don't know if it was.
But she just did a really good job of looking shocked.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're back to completely mirroring the Enfield haunting. We've got this girl that's sort of potentially possessed. She's coming out with this gravelly man's voice that she couldn't possibly reproduce. And we've seen earlier in the show, they've tried to get her to do it and she physically can't do it. Very much like the Enfield haunting.
One of the girls has gone missing now, and Sarah Green's running around the house trying to find her.
Tearing around trying to find her.
We don't know if that's paranormal or not, but I certainly got the impression that the one downstairs that did the voice, that was, again, that's where I bought back in.
Well, I think something that I didn't pick up on until I'd watched it a few more times, I don't know why, is that we are sort of, the rabbit in the sink. We're told from the beginning that it's the older girl that keeps getting possessed, and it's her that's the centre of the hauntings. And then later on, the littler girl, the younger girl that's gone missing, we find out that actually it's her that's the one that talks to pipes, and it's her that has the communication with the ghost. And she's the one that's just run off. Sarah Green's found her in the kitchen, hiding behind the fridge. Her stuffed teddy bear that she's been clutching all the way through this is drowned in the sink. Sarah pulls the kid out from behind the fridge. Pipes, possibly.
Yeah.
And the girl opens her hand and she's got the teddy bear's eyes in her hand.
Yeah. This is where it starts going a bit OTT.
Yeah, it's all kicking off now.
The cat screaming. That's where I was like, no, it is fake.
Yeah, it's a big part of the story. The noise of noise of cats screaming.
Yeah. And the basement's been sealed up. They made a big show of it when it started. That the basement or the understairs cupboard is where Pipes lives, and they'd boarded it up because it was scary. And now they're hearing all these screaming cats coming from the cupboard under the stairs. They're ripping the boards off to get in and have a look.
A pipe sighting in a minute. Oh, so behind the boards is a door.
Yeah.
So they rip the boarding off, and there's a door behind. And I think we just
when they open the door, there's another sighting of Pipes.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, and the cameraman's down.
Yeah.
The cameraman's down. He's been bashed in the head by Pipes. Sarah's running to go and get help.
Yeah, this is where it goes wrong.
I don't know. I'm still with them at this point.
No, they lost me at the cat screaming.
I can understand why, because they didn't do a good job on the audio for that.
No.
It's really, you can tell it's fake.
Yeah,
it's pre-recorded. It doesn't sound natural at all. I can understand why it lost you, but I think I'm still really into it at this point because everything's just ramping up. And it hasn't gone over the top yet.
I say they lost me. And they didn't entirely, but this was like, I'd switched from going, I think this is real, to I don't think this is real anymore.
Yeah.
And when it gets worse, it does then hit now.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, I could be swung back at this point, but they've pushed me a bit far.
Well, not for me. I think this is really, I'm still in the thick of it at this point, definitely. They've ramped up just enough. Things are happening. Things are happening, but then they pull it back because in the house there's stuff going on, but then we lose the signal.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back outside just talking to Craig Charles. Craig Charles doesn't have a clue what's going on, so he's just being an idiot. And everything calms down again. So we're just left hanging.
Yeah.
And then they do something very, very clever indeed. Go on.
Well, they cut back. They're like, we've got the feed back. and you're looking in, and Sarah and the cameraman are sat on the floor. They're chatting with the girls in the living room. It's like, oh, everything's fine now. And you're like, hang on a minute, that they tidied the house up and everything got back to normal quickly enough.
Yeah.
But Parky just goes with it. He's just like, oh, well, everything's fine. Oh, that's good. And doesn't think, oh, where's all the smashed glass, and why hasn't the cameraman's, why has the cameraman's head wound suddenly disappeared? And
Yeah.
all the pictures that were on the floor have suddenly mounted themselves back on the wall. He hasn't tweaked. It's Lynn Pascoe, isn't it? It's the parapsychologist that goes, hang on a minute.
Yeah, well, they're not. Yeah. So at the moment, Mike Smith is in the call centre, and he's obviously getting really worried. And this is another thing that people really bought into, because
he was like, I want to speak to my wife. I want to speak to my wife.
Because on this show, on this production, they're husband and wife, and obviously his wife is Sarah Green. She's in the house with everything that's going on. But in real life, they were real newlyweds, husband and wife, and people knew that, and they were one of those TV couples that everybody was really invested in, because it was like young love and newlyweds, and everybody was behind them. And so he's obviously worried, and he's like, what's happened to my wife? Oh my god, And so everybody at home was worried for, they were there with him going, god, is she okay?
Yeah. Great minds think alike, you see. I agree. Yeah. That's when I started to see it.
No, that's fair.
I wasn't completely sold, but almost. It flicked me from, I think this is real, and maybe not. I think this is probably not real, maybe it is. And then, from here, it starts to get too much for me.
But at this point, we have a really crucial phone call. So a chap calls into the studio and speaks to Parkinson and Lynn Pascoe. And this chap basically tells us who the ghost is and the reason for the hauntings. And again, it takes another very dark turn. And this is another thing that a lot of the complaints were about, because it wasn't just like, oh, there was a man and he wasn't very nice and he died. It was, an offender, and it went very...
Yeah, it was a bit Norman Bates, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then some.
Yeah.
So we get Pipe's origin story, and I think we get a name as well.
Yeah.
We get the name at this point.
But bearing in mind, we're watching an actual, like, how it would have actually played. It's like 10 to 11.
Yeah.
So it's late, it's the time where
I don't
even
think I saw this far.
No.
I think I was sent to bed before this point.
I'd seen this far. I left before things started. Yeah, the end. We'll get to the end very soon. But yeah, I was kind of hanging on for this bit.
Yeah, but again, their reactions listening to this caller they're brilliant. They've played it so well, especially the Dr. Lynn Pascoe. They're obviously flummoxed. They had, even though they knew this situation was serious, especially her with the university research she'd done, you get the sense from her expression that she didn't realise just what she was dealing with. And Parkinson sitting there thinking, this is a lot for primetime TV, and I don't know if we're prepared to deal with this. And it's just so, again, it's so believable, the way they react to the phone call and knowing what the sort of the truth behind the haunting is.
Yeah.
And this is where they realise that what they're watching
is a replay.
So she's figured out, or is it?
She's
just figuring it out. Let's have a look. She's not buying at all that everything's back to normal and hunky-dory. All this stuff kicked off. They lost the feed. And then the next thing we see, everything's fine. The kids are playing a game in the living room. The cameraman's not been hit on the head. But everything's calm. And she is not buying it at all. There's something wrong. She can't put her finger on it. And now she figures it out.
I know. But it was when you first saw the replay, you're just like, oh, that's weird. They've gone from all this mess and all this drama to just sitting around chilling out. That's not right. And then when she figures it out and points out all the stuff, you're like, oh, yeah. And it's almost like you're like, yeah, I knew there was something wrong. I knew it.
Yeah.
And you get back on her side again.
Yeah, you're back in her corner again.
And now all the footage is sort of flickering and replaying other bits, and that it's all, now that you're onto it, it's suddenly gone, all right, well, I'm going to show you some stuff and wind you up again.
She figures out that
But,
the
yeah, this
ghost
is
is
it now.
in the machine, basically.
She this is where National Seance comes from. We mentioned it earlier. Is she's just said, you know, oh, all these people at home watching this and thinking about ghosts has turned the whole country into a national seance.
And that's where the National Seance comes from.
Yeah, this is now it's blown it for me because they bring it like it starts getting windy in the studio, like,
and it's windy in the street for some reason. I don't know what it is. Why do these films have paranormal winds? I've never encountered a paranormal wind in my life.
Paranormal wind.
I don't know why they do it. They just they don't know what else to do to make it dramatic, so they stick a wind machine on. I don't get it.
So, and the police somehow miraculously turn up
they call
in an
the
old
police.
Ford Granada, and you know they get the family out, but Sarah Green is nowhere to be found at the moment. So they've pulled the kids out, they pulled the mum out, and it's like, oh, it's all kind of a bit tense, and they've gone over the top.
Yeah, Craig Charles has even gone a bit serious, and he's helping the kids into the police car.
If it wasn't for the wind in the studio, I could have believed it a little bit more.
Okay, now we're back in the house.
And the cameraman that had been knocked out is now sort of woozily sort of wiggling around. Or is this
a different, because there was the cameraman and the sound man. Is this the cameraman? Or is the cameraman still unconscious? I don't think we know. But obviously they've lost all the lights in the house.
Yeah, and we're seeing Sarah on the thermal cam, and the camera's lying on the ground.
Back out.
Yeah.
So she can't see what she's doing, and I think she's going to pick up the thermal camera so she can find her way around. So again, this was all new. Like, we'd never seen thermal camera technology before. We'd certainly never seen it used for this. In fact, isn't this a scene from Paranormal Activity? Doesn't this literally happen in Paranormal Activity? They lose the lights. One of them's in the basement, and they pick up the. I'm sure they use a thermal imaging camera to find their way around a dark basement as a scene in one of the Paranormal Activity films. I think they might have directly lifted this.
Yeah, like that touch, the wind in the studio. If they hadn't done that, oh, they blew it with that for me. But then this bit's quite tense. It's all quiet.
It's very tense.
You know, she's wandering around, and again, they've not overdone it in the house yet.
No, but
they're about to.
Yeah, but like you say, this bit you're worried for Sarah Green's safety, because you know she was. Especially if you were a kid watching this, she was your presenter. Yeah. You know, we had kids TV, and you had like Sarah Green and I can't remember who the other ones were now, but just
Andy Peters. Yeah, Andy Peters.
Oh my God!
And now they've blown it. Like the lights in the studio start exploding, and cups fly off the table in front of Parky.
It's all kicking off.
But
then we're back in the house again.
Yeah. But one of the girls, like Sarah, can hear one of the girls.
But we know both the girls have left, though, don't we?
Were they both out? I remember seeing the young one, but not the older one.
No, the older one wasn't, was she?
So she can hear one of the girls in the understairs cupboard where Pipes lives.
The glory hole.
Why
do they call it the glory hole?
That's got to have been an intentional joke, surely.
I don't know. Apparently, the glory hole is a word for an understairs cupboard. But I don't think anybody had ever, from our generation, had ever heard it called that until we saw this and went, what?
Yeah,
what?
And then now they've blown it for me, you see, because you can hear the girl screaming from underneath the cupboard. She goes into the cupboard door slams, boom, and it's like she's gone into a different portal.
Was that just another sighting of Pipes that I've never seen before?
I didn't see
when that
one.
First light in the studio blew, I swear I saw a figure on the gantry.
I didn't see it.
No. Well, when this is over, I'm going to have to rewind it again. I think there might have been another possible pipe sighting. So yeah, we've got lights blowing over all over the studio.
That was too much. This is a mysterious wind.
Everybody else, wind again.
Yeah, everybody else has run away apart from Parky, who's like, I'm still in the studio. I don't know.
I'm doing my job.
I don't know. Oh, the auto cue's still working. I should be reading from the auto cue, even though there's no cameramen and everyone else has gone.
He's literally bimbling around in the dark now. We've got a dark screen, and we can just hear Parky shuffling around in the dark, trying to report on what's happening.
Yeah, should I talk about this? Or there's nobody left in the studio now. It's just me. Oh, the auto cue's working. And they just. Yeah,
Yeah.
the look on his face. You can't see his face, but he's like, oh, what am I doing? You know.
We can just see sort of shoulders down because obviously all the cameras are supposed to have gone out. It's dark. We've got a very grainy, scratchy image of just mainly we can just hear Parkinson. Then he comes right up to the camera,
and then he does a little nursery rhyme.
This is where he supposedly gets taken over by pipes.
Yeah.
Round and round the garden, like a teddy bear. And then we go into Pipes, the gravelly voice. I never believed that stuff about Mother Seddons, did you? And then the screaming cats, which just kind of ruins it.
Yeah, and they just.
And the end.
Yeah. Oh.
And then we've got the credits written by Stephen Volk. And then we've got all the
Dr. Lynn Pascoe, Julian,
played by.
Yeah. So you've got all. You can tell now that it's characters because they've got their actual names.
Yes, they've got all their credits. They've got the character names and the credits, and it says written by the Ghost. The Ghost is credited.
Yeah. So you know, if
anonymous man.
Yeah, if you watch to the end, you know that it wasn't a true program.
The problem was
most
a lot
people
of
didn't
people
watch to the end.
Didn't watch to the end.
I understand a lot of them. I think a lot of it is just the sort of. Well,
they actually had another continuity thing after the thing had finished as well. So they had the bit before saying that it was kind of hinting that it was a drama, and at the end, after the show had finished, the presenter said, "It is of course Halloween, and if you were with us for our Ghost Watch earlier, may I reassure you that it was just a story, and all's well here at Television Centre."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most people just didn't see it.
Yeah,
they didn't see the beginning. They didn't get the radio times. They didn't see the end with the credits. They just missed all of the cues that told people that it wasn't real. But I don't know why the Phantom Wind didn't tell them it wasn't real.
No, that blew it for me. But again, I think they just didn't watch that far.
No, possibly not.
Yeah, when it got silly, I was like, nah, that's it, I'm done. And I didn't say, yeah.
You're right, Kerry.
Same as me.
So many great, well done ghost movies blow it in the end. Never know how to end it. I know.
Well, they've got to. Like, I can see why there's not much else for them to do. If they did what happens in a normal haunting, it was like, oh, cool, that you gave me. Can I just start?
I think I might get a new house.
Yeah. You know, you can see why they have to go overboard, because, you know, when you're living through it, it's quite terrifying. If you're talking to people about it, it's like, oh, well, there's a bit of a thumping noise upstairs.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. That doesn't make a great film.
But have any of you guys seen The Awakening, the movie The Awakening? It's a few years old now, but it was written by Stephen Volk, the chap who wrote this. And I didn't realise that for years, but I need to watch it again because I'm trying to remember how it ended, and I can't remember whether it went overboard like they all do in the end. I'm gonna have to get hold of that, I think. But it's one of those films that I've always remembered as being like a good one. You know, because we watch so many films and they just don't have any of the realism for us. But that was one that really stood out, that I remember thinking when I was watching it, this is, you know, I'm actually spooked. You haven't, but we need to watch it. And it was only when we started researching this that I realised that Stephen Volk wrote it. And that's probably why I liked it, because obviously there are definitely shades of Ghostwatch in there.
Yeah.
So if you did enjoy Ghostwatch, maybe consider watching The Awakening, because the other thing he did was that BBC TV series Afterlife.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was good.
That was
with what's his name from Walking Dead?
Yes, yeah, and Leslie something, I can't remember, but yeah, what's his name from Walking Dead before he was famous for being in The Walking Dead was in it. And I remember it being good. I just can't remember much else about it.
I can't remember much about it, but it was good.
But yeah, so check. I don't think you can watch Afterlife anymore, unfortunately, but The Awakening you should be able to get hold of somewhere. That is worth a watch.
2 fun bits of trivia
for
Ghostwatch before we go. People were actually, wasn't it Parky's mum?
Yeah.
Phoned the BBC to check he was okay because she thought it was real.
Well, and somebody, I think it was Stephen Volk, that said one of his friends needed to check that he was okay. But the thing is, he'd had a conversation with his friend the week before to tell them about this thing he'd written. and he said, well, but you know it wasn't real. Like everybody in the studio is fine. I told you I wrote it. And they were like, well, yeah, but you know, it looked really real.
And weren't people sending wreaths into BBC for Sarah?
Sarah Green had to make a special appearance on
Yeah.
TV to basically go, I'm alive, don't panic, it's
wasn't-
all all
I
right.
wasn't killed in the
No,
glory hole
I
under the
wasn't.
stairs by pipes.
Because people were really, really
Yeah.
traumatised by it. But... oh dear.
Well, I think we've rambled on for about 2
Yeah.
hours, and you're probably bored stiff
probably
of us
sick
now.
of our voices. I'm really, if you were watching that for the first time and we just spoke over the whole thing, I do apologise.
Yeah. You know, bear in mind, you could just go away, watch Ghost Watch, and then whenever you've watched it enough times that you're comfortable with it, you can watch it again and then play us along with it.
Yeah.
See how we go. But, you know, let us know what you think of the very first Not Once for Yes Halloween live stream.
This was it. We survived. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yep. If you
hopefully
guys like
we're
it,
still streaming and it all went okay.
Yeah, hopefully you weren't just sort of looking at a frozen screen and going, oh, crap, this is terrible.
Hopefully you enjoyed it, and it was just meant to be a bit of fun because, you know, we can't go out, we can't really do anything. We have, like we said at the beginning, in case you missed the beginning, we've just literally like an hour before we started this found out that we're going back into a national lockdown.
Yeah.
So we literally can't really go out and do very much. So we just thought it would be a bit of fun to have a bit of a virtual Halloween party at KOFY HQ, and let's be honest, it was an excuse to show off our moon.
Yes.
Because we love it so. So we do hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. If you'd like us to do more of this sort of thing, then let us know. If you got any feedback, tips, what have you, just drop us a line via email, through Facebook, Twitter, and whatnot.
Yes.
And we hope you enjoy the rest of your Halloween.
And if you haven't listened to the new episode yet, there's a bumper Halloween episode out for you.
Yes.
It's about 2 hours long. I apologise.
Yeah, we've had some serious gremlins getting that done.
Yeah, it should have been a bit earlier, but it's just everything was a bit jinxed today.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's 2020, isn't it? It's just what's going on this year.
Full blue moon on Halloween in 2020. It was never going to go. That was never going to go smoothly, was it? But it's out now, so we hope you enjoyed the Halloween episode. If you haven't listened already, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening or day, depending on what time zone you're in. And happy Halloween from us.
Happy Halloween. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.